Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thank you once again for coming to this show to talk about everything AI and project management. I'm really happy to meet my guest and introduce my guest to you today. It's Mr. Tony Lockwood. Tony, would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, thanks, Lloyd. Great to be here. As you say, Tony Lockwood. My background is 20 years in change and transformation across multiple sectors, and quite a lot of stuff that's happening in the world of transformation these days is very much AI driven. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to having an interesting conversation today.
Fantastic. And Tony, do tell us about your book as well and all of that part of your world.
Yeah, so as I sort of developed in my career, I got opportunity to work in, as I say, multiple sectors, and I also host the Transformation Leaders podcast. And off the back of that and the work that I was doing, someone started to say, a few people said, "Well, there's a book in this, the podcast." And it's like, yeah, okay. So I started looking at it, and in 2024. Authored the Transformation Leaders Body of Knowledge, which became a bit of a tome, 613 pages worth of stuff that's about what it takes to drive organizational transformation across a 9-pillar framework. And I think that's part of what we'll talk about today, that one of those pillars is data and digital, which obviously sits very much aligned to the AI world. But if you don't consider the other 8 pillars within an organizational transformation, the likelihood is it'll start to unravel.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And it's a fantastic introduction to what we are going to talk about. Really interested to hear, about some, if not all of those other 8 pillars and how AI is just one part of that puzzle, as you hinted at. But, we are here to talk about AI. So I must ask, this world we're in. I was on a call earlier this morning, Tony, with some senior architects and just laughing. You just can't get away from this subject of AI at the moment. What's your thoughts when it comes to AI in transformation, AI in projects? What's it all about from your perspective?
I think from an organizational wide perspective, then what I'm finding is that most organizations are interested in what AI can do for them. I think also that a lot of organizations, starting point for a lot of organizations is how can it drive efficiency? How can it take cost out? How can it maybe reduce headcount? Which, in my opinion, is probably the wrong way of looking at it. Because that's a very finite amount of benefit that can be delivered. I think if you turn it on its head to say, how can AI help me grow the business? How can AI open up new revenue opportunities? How can AI help me to move into new sectors or into new countries? Then that's an infinite benefit case. And those organizations that are looking at it through that lens are tended to move quicker, deliver benefit quicker, and get more people excited about it in their organization for obvious reasons.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say there, because certainly with our clients, what we often come across is exactly your point about, can we drive efficiencies? Now, some of those clients actually do want to take people out of the business themselves. Others just want to, sort of wring more out of people, do more activity, assuming the right activity with the same people. But I can imagine if your growth mindset, because of that, that's almost a strategic mindset, isn't it? This is the direction the business is going to. So it's really interesting that you're seeing that possibly there's greater success taking that.
Yeah, and I get pulled back often for using this analogy, but it's when you talk about digital, and AI is obviously one part of digital. When you talk about digital within the organizational context, if you only look at it through the lens of digital, that's a bit like the tail wagging the dog, as opposed to looking at things strategically and saying, okay, what is the vision for the business? Where are we going? What is the clarity, and why are we trying to move in the direction that we're trying to move? And then once you've got that, then understand what it means from a business model perspective, the operating model perspective, and the data and digital perspective. Those four elements create the roadmap for any change and transformation. So AI in that context is a subset of one element of that roadmap.
Yeah.
So, let's look at it through the lens of the four, as opposed to just looking at it through one subset.
Yeah, I think AI seems to be a substitute term for anything these days. It's like in my day, it was called a computer, then it got called technology, then it got called information, and I think now it's being called AI. And obviously, your point about digital. I'm just thinking about use cases of AI in that journey, and I can imagine there could potentially be use cases even to establish the why and the models and all of that sort of stuff. Have you got any experience at that setup stage where you've seen AI being
Absolutely, yeah.
deployed?
Absolutely. And I think, let's not underplay the value that AI can bring. It will and is an integral part of helping an organization to transform. The analysis and the speed of that analysis is exponentially greater than it's ever been. And as long as you're allowing the AI to do the analysis and then bringing in the human element in terms of the decision making and the judgment, I think that's a really, really valid user case for using AI. I think where many organizations, not many organizations, many people see AI as, well, give me the answer, and I'll just do what you tell me to do. And that's dangerous, because it's not that developed, massively developed, but there's still some underlying issues with some of those judgment calls. So let's make use of it where you can to speed up the process, to speed up the analysis, the research, the thinking, but then take all that data in and make some rational decisions as a leadership group, as you would do normally. I was having a conversation yesterday, and I'm speaking at a CIPD event next week. And one of the things that we're going to talk about is using agents, is seeing agents as just another member of the team. And in the same way as when you bring a new member of the team in, you don't expect them to be immediately productive. You've got to work with them. You've got to help them to understand the context, the culture, the business elements within the organization. You've got to do that exactly the same with the agent. The only advantage is that they can pick things up a lot quicker, and they can keep churning out the stuff 24/7. But the core aspect is you've got to develop the agents in the same way as you've got to develop your team. So any leader moving forward needs to have the ability to work within a team that is made up of humans and agents.
Yeah, I was, as you were speaking, I was thinking, I can't remember your exact words, but the technology isn't, completely foolproof. And I was thinking, well, it's not just the technology, it's us. We're not trained and ready for the technology as well,
Exactly. Yeah.
I must go back to the words you used, though, which was integral to transformation. I thought that was such a great quote, as it were, Tony. Let's just build on that a little bit more around that headline of integral to transformation. How is it integral to transformation, I guess, is my follow-up question, Tony.
Yeah, I suppose that comes back to, how do you define transformation? And my definition of transformation is moving something that never actually goes back. So it is new. Yeah, we move into the new world. We move into something that is not completely different to where we are now.
mm.
And AI can give you that capability to get to that new world and to experience that new world, possibly even in the virtual capacity first to validate and check and understand the unintended consequences, etc., before really committing to stuff. But then once you're committed and once you've got there, you'll never go back. So it's that real transformation, and I think that's where AI can play a big part in helping organisations move from one state to the next, by helping them think and do the analysis, by helping them to understand the sort of external consequences, the unintended consequences of what they're proposing to do. So they've got a much more rounded perspective, and then to help them to deliver what it is that they want to deliver, that vision.
Yeah, that point I think is really interesting. I mean, the rise of phrases like digital twin. I was reading an article this week, personal digital twins as well, which I thought, nobody wants a second Lloyd for sure.
It is interesting. And so, one of the things that I've done with the Transformation Leaders Body of Knowledge is to create a digital twin that its knowledge base is the book. It's the contents of the book. And the book was made up of the experiences of lots of transformation leaders. And what we've done is created a digital twin that doesn't, it acts as a 24/7 coach, 24/7 mentor, but it doesn't tell you what to do. It sort of says, tell me the context of the transformation that you're working through at the moment, and then tell me some of the challenges that you're facing, and let's talk about it. And I'll help you think about the different things so that you're in a much better, much stronger place to make that judgment call and make the right decision, as opposed to just telling you to go and do this, which OpenAI, not OpenAI in the brand, but OpenAI in terms of the various AI agents that are out there, typically will come and say, this is what you do, bang, 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 bang. The better ones help you to make a better decision and make better judgment calls.
And for me, that trade-off is, if you look at the body of knowledge around the more senior leaders around transformation and projects, we know that half our life is trying to balance those trade-offs or inform those decision makers of what those trade-offs could be, whether it's cost, benefit, opportunity, risk, etc., as it were. So that makes really load of sense to me, and trying to get a balanced view of the world and try and guide us. And again, I'm sure we've all been there where you're analyzing the answers, you're pushing the answers, but you never get to the end either as well. So that can be frustrating. I actually want to just go back a second, because I was thinking about, data and digital as one of your pillars, and I'm sure there isn't a single answer to this question, but I was thinking about the 8 other pillars and which ones were really tied to data and digital, and whether there was, specifics, that you would point towards people thinking about when they're considering that pillar.
Well, I think, as I said earlier, the data and digital is one part of a 4-part equation, which is about creating that roadmap. And fundamentally, it starts with the vision, because without a vision and without understanding where you get to, then who knows which direction you're going to set off from. So it's the sat nav type of approach. And until you tap in where you want to get to, then technology can't help you. So that once you've got that roadmap, then the culture of the organization can have a big impact on whether or not they're going to adopt and go on the journey with you, or actually look, if the culture is, well, we've been here, we've tried all these different things in the past, doesn't really help, blah, blah. The core stakeholders and external partners will have a big impact because most organisations are not islands. They're always working with other parties, other organisations in that supply chain. So, you've got to take those people on that journey in the same way as you've got to take your own people on the journey. And the final aspect of the how aspects of the pillars is the people itself. Have you got the people with the right skills that you need in the new world? And more often than not, you won't. So do you need to bring new people in? Can you upskill the existing people? Other people where actually you just need to help them to find other roles in other organizations that are more suited to their skills and experiences and what they want to do. So that those additional three pillars, the culture, the stakeholders and partners and people, are three on top of the original four. And the final two are governance. So have we got the governance in place? And again, from an AI perspective, being clear about that governance of what people can do, how people can utilize AI, what they can't, how you can ensure that data remains within the organization and not allowed to go outside of the organization is critical. And the final bit is the final pillar is the financial management and the benefits realization. And again, we don't need to go and look too far to be able to identify lots of programs and lots of projects that have promised the earth and delivered very little.
I think
and cost a lot more than we expected.
Well, exactly. Mentioning no names, obviously, some quite high-profile ones in the UK, actually. But it makes me think about the transformation to deliver AI capability versus AI in management, or I would call it project management, but AI in transformation management as well. And they're two slightly different things. I mean, obviously, the former actually is how you would deliver the latter in its own right. I always say that delivering any technology, whether it's AI or anything, is a transformation journey, and you do that. So it made me think about that. But I thought what was very interesting was that your culture, stakeholder, partners, and people, that's all of the softer side that we keep hearing that AI can't do or AI can't get over, as it were. What's your thoughts on that, Tony?
But it depends how you define can't do or can't get over. I think a lot of that is driven by mindset, and absolutely there'll be people within the organization whose mindset is I don't want to get involved in AI, it's not for me. And equally on the other extreme, it'll be give me more and more and more. I love it, but that's life, and that is that sort of across the world. You've got people who are early adopters and you've got people who are laggards, and that happens within the organization. You've got to identify that, and you've got to understand that, and you've got to communicate in the right way about what you're trying to do, and put a framework around what people can utilize, when they can utilize it, how they can utilize it, and then encourage them to practice and to try. Because those laggards, not everyone, but most of them will eventually come, and the way that they come across is to use it. It's that sort of repetition, isn't it? It takes you back to childhood. It's like you don't give up trying to walk until you actually master it.
I'm still trying, Tony. I'm still trying, especially on a late night out and in London or whatever. But sorry, that's a different story. I was just thinking about, earlier in the conversation, we were talking about the human judgment almost being the last, point of the chain, as it were. I personally think that moment of human judgment is to be shrunk over time. So in other words, where is that demarcation line between what the AI does, what you trust, the answers it comes up with, versus that validation, versus that final decision making?
Yeah.
And like I said, I think that will shrink over time. What's your thoughts?
I think the time to collate information and pool that data will shrink and has shrunk massively. I've had an example just recently where I probably would have taken me 3 or 4 weeks to do the level of research that I've done in a day. Yeah, and the quality of that research is as high as I would have been able to do if I'd had a team doing it. And that was very much driven by AI. So that ability to pull that information together, that you need to be able to make conscious decisions, will shrink. But you'll still have situations where you haven't got a complete data set, and the judgment comes in. And I think that's where the humans come, because that's where the experience comes. And one of the things that AI is not quite there yet is being able to say, well, my experience, I've been here before. This is what happens in these situations. I need to second guess this sort of stuff and help with that final decision making. Is not that. I don't know whether it ever will be, or whether or not we will be in a situation where we, as an organisation or as leaders, we're ever comfortable in that, because I think we need to maintain accountability, because ultimately investors are investing in the leadership of that organisation to deliver the return on investment, and they will want individuals to be accountable as opposed to machines.
Yeah.
So I think there's always going to be a judgment call, and what you've got to do is provide the individuals who are making those judgment calls and those decisions, be able to provide them with the best information that's available, as quickly as possible, and then support them in thinking about the consequences of the decisions. And I think AI can play a part in that.
Yeah, and I can imagine, if AI increasingly does encroach on that, it does bring its risks with it. Whether that's, you mentioned the wrong data sets, therefore the wrong inference, and therefore the wrong recommendations, or the partial recommendations. Is there any big concerns you have about the future, or maybe even today, when it comes to AI?
Yeah, well, it's interesting, isn't it? I was involved in a conversation a few weeks back, and it was about the procurement processes within large organisations, and the role that AI is playing in that. So you've got AI playing a part in developing the procurement, the requirements.
Yes.
AI in creating the invitation to tender documentation.
Yes.
Yeah. So as an organisation, we want to be able to do this, and this, and we get AI to help the procurement team put all that together. Yeah. Then that gets released to the world, and people put their hand up and say, "Yeah, I'm interested in doing that." And you get AI helping you to put a deck together, and a response together that meets that brief. Yeah. And different organisations will utilise it in different ways, but ultimately they'll be, if they're not, they should at the end sort of say, okay, here's the requirements, here's my brief, tell me what it's going to score. And it's a logical user case for that. So that will start to get closer and closer and closer, and then the submissions go back in, and the organisations start to score them, and they've got all of this data, they've got all of this information. They will naturally use AI to do the scoring. So at some stage, if we're not careful, that whole process will be, or could be, completely automated.
Yeah.
and AI's arguing with AI to come up with the right solution. That doesn't feel right to me, because what misses out on that is that emotional piece, that can I actually work? Can this organization and this organization actually work together? And that sort of relationship bit gets missed out. And that's where in terms of the procurement leaders, that's the value add that they can bring. They don't really bring any value add by just disseminating data and collating data, but it's that judgment call is where I think the value add is, and that's where we probably need to retain.
It's a great example, because almost the best AI will get through the curves, and I sort of see it as a triage process. And similar to recruitment, you already see it now. You can't, unless your CV or whatever it's called these days has the right words that are matched, you're not even going to get past step one. So I totally agree that ultimately, if you've ticked so many boxes, this becomes a chemistry meeting, rather than I've met these skills, so I can do the job. So is it right, fit for purpose? Even then, I think, you can start encroaching to some level.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because going the recruitment example is a good one to think about, because I've always worked on the principle that you recruit for attitude, not aptitude, because you can train people into doing the stuff that you want to do, but you can never get the attitude right. But AI is looking at, have you got the skills and have you got the experience, and it can't reflect the attitude. So you could get lots of really good people coming through that recruitment process, the AI saying absolutely spot on, but from an attitude perspective, they'd be, a bad apple that you introduced into the organization, and we've all seen it. You put a bad apple in, and it starts to rot the rest of the organization very quickly.
I often say I've worked with some bad people. Sorry, I'm not calling out names, Tone, obviously, but it's back to your point earlier about an AI agent is a team member, and I've worked with some good and bad team members as well, and certainly the AI agent can do some better than some people. Again, over time, I feel that even that judgment level can get bitten into, and we're already seeing products like the one we're using, which is reading the hand signals or the eye signals. So a modern day lie detector, I think, is a sort of similar thing. So I don't know whether that leaves us in a really scary place or a really opportunistic place. Where do you land, Tony? Are you in terms of thinking about the future?
I think it's like anything, isn't it? It's government hasn't caught up with the regulations around the AI world. I was listening to a podcast yesterday, or the day before, and it was the Rest is Politics podcast with Rory Stewart and Alistair Campbell, and they were interviewing, in discussion with, I can't remember the guy's name now, it'll come back to me, but is the British part, or one of the leaders who's a Brit, in Anthropic, and they're having this exact conversation that if you look back through the annals of history, then regulation has taken time to catch up with things, whether it was regulations around food, whether it's regulations around alcohol, whether it's regulations around drugs, whether it's regulations around medicine. The technology moved on a lot quicker than the regulation, but then the regulation caught up.
Mm,
I think the challenge we've got now with AI is that the technology is moving so quickly,
mm.
literally day in, day out. New things are popping up. Um, Governments are struggling
Yeah,
to keep up with it. Um, so that's quite frightening,
yeah,
given what one of the things that they were raising is that they think in two and a half years, AI could have the capability of creating um, some really powerful weapons,
yeah,
and we could lose control.
yeah,
Um, so these are people that are in the know,
yeah.
are in the detail, and they're
Mm,
saying
mm,
that,
mm.
and so that's quite frightening if you
Yeah.
look at it. But on the opposite side, then just looking at it purely from an organisation's perspective, if you look through that lens that we started off earlier, talking
Mm,
about where are the opportunities and how
mm,
can I grow my business,
mm,
or how can we drive the ongoing development of this organisation,
mm.
AI's got massive
Yeah,
potential. So that's
yeah,
quite exciting.
yeah. No,
So
absolutely.
it is a bit sort of which side of the bed you want to look out of, I suppose, and which
Yeah.
lens you want to look through.
I,
There's excitement, but there's also a threat.
I totally agree with the that summation, as it were, and obviously technology knows no geographical boundaries. Tech firms are bigger than some countries these days as well. Debate whether that's good or bad. I think the epitome of that argument is actually AI and sustainability, where on the one hand, for hopefully for our children, our grandchildren, we want to still have a planet. On the other hand, this AI that is fueling both opportunity and risk is drawing on masses amount of water and power and all of that sort of stuff. So I think, you know, we're in a bit of a dichotomy of a world at the
Yeah,
moment,
yeah,
so
yeah. No,
so
yeah, absolutely. I think it will be interesting to see how the world develops over the next.
yeah.
I was going to say 50 years. It's probably not even. I don't even think we've got
No,
50
I
years.
think it's your point. It's going much faster. It's much
Going much faster.
faster.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
But if you think about all of the significant sort of transformations that have happened in the past, um, yeah, there's been major upheavals, and there's been major sort of significant events, but we've survived,
we're still here.
um, and we're still here.
Yeah.
Um, so the positive part of me says, well, yeah, it's not going to be easy. There's going to be some battered and bruising happening over the next few years,
Yeah.
but the people that will be making those decisions will ultimately want to survive, um, and and, um, and probably just need to take more control. And this is where the government's come in, doesn't it? And
Yeah.
government working collectively across the world, take take back control from the tech bros.
Yeah, exactly. Well, look, Tony, we've been chatting for well over half an hour. So, just to say thank you so much for your time, as it were. I normally ask for, one last message if you've got one. I mean, we sort of had quite a nice conclusion there anyway, but just thank you. But is there anything else you just want to round off with?
No, I think I absolutely thank you for the opportunity. I can't believe it has been 38 minutes as it stands
Yes.
at the moment.
Yeah.
It was gone very quickly, which always is a good indication that it's been an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
So thank you for that opportunity. I think if there is a message, it's look at the opportunity, and personal opportunity, organizational opportunity, and use AI in a way that helps you collate information, but don't let it take away the judgment. That's the key message.
Fantastic, Tony. Thanks once again for your time. And people, Tony's actually Tony Transformation Lockwood, I decided in the middle of that conversation. So thank you so much. Some really sage advice there, and look forward to keeping in touch.
Brilliant. All right. Thanks, Lloyd.